Support it.
We got it.
Right here, right here.
Perfect. When you punch your starter, you punch front. Sockets. Come down.
Should be ahead.
Maybe you use wider starter.
We'll be done by now.
If we're using 14 plus 3 inches.
You would definitely be done that same time frame.
About 5.5 inches.
What?
We got an 8-inch slate that only has been 2.5 inches ahead of that.
I went where the top one is you go.
Some of the wider ones out there for our slate. So we'll
Joe, why don't you grab
some of the wider ones, maybe grab 10 or so.
Hey, after that, he wants to figure out what test.
Quiet. I hate that when people in the class have their phones. So does that make sense how we did that? And it looks like the gap is too much in some areas, but as long as it's uniform, as soon as we get the starter slates underneath of that, you're never going to see it. It's 12s. What did we say we needed? We needed a 9-inch slate, is that right, for the starter? If I put these in here like this, which is exactly how they get installed, see how that forms a nice drip edge, nice and uniform, but I can't use this because it's going to block off my nail holes. And I don't want to just raise the nail hole, I want to cut this down. So we needed a 9. We're going to take 1 inch off of that. I'm cutting small rips off of slate like this, where I just need an inch. The Pearson doesn't tend to work very well. Like if you're cutting a 1/2 inch off, the cutter's going to come out the side. 1 inch you might be able to get away with. I would probably just do this with a hammer. That's the best way to do it. Now, doesn't really matter which way we cut as long as it's straight. So we're going to need starters cut down to 9 inches wide. We're going to probably need, and then we need to be 12 inches long. So we'll to cut the first starter. Not bring a frame square, which is extremely handy to have. First starter is going to be 12.
I think you're doing a little too much. I don't know. I'm not. Well, I'm wondering why. No matter which way you take it,
And then we want 9 wide.
Probably to start at that
yeah. Yeah, don't put it as far as
Would you know where to sidle that?
No, I'd use a square.
Oh, you just scratch the whole thing, or you just make one mark and just cover it through?
No, I'd
And I would
do
use
it off
blue,
because I
red,
want.
white, blue.
I don't know whether I'm going to. Well, I know on this one it's going to go that way. So I'm cutting off at the top and leaving the factor edge at the bottom. Sometimes that might not be the case. I would use a square, especially when I'm using that thin cut, because I like seeing that long line.
You run off it pretty easy, huh?
What's that?
You run off it pretty easy.
Yeah. Now, before I cut this, I know that if I try and punch this afterwards, it's probably going to break. So I know that I need a nail hole here, there, same thing on the other side, right about there, and maybe an inch in. And now I can take from the, this is one of the only times you can cut and you punch on the front side. I can put a hole here, and a hole here. And that's got the countersink on the correct. That's got the countersink on the correct side. So when that slate goes in, so just like that, it's going to break in the middle of this one. These nail holes are going to get covered up by the face slate, and we've got 3 inches from the keyway. Can strip doesn't do that. We'll just leave it down for now. we've got that cut. And I need, all these lines on here were set up for 12-inch long slate. I'm not gonna cut everyone down. So we need to get a starter line. And like I said, I typically like to leave mine overhang 2 inches. And I know that that starter is 9 inches, right? So we'll put a mark at 9, holding 2. Holding 2, mark at 9.
Ryan needs me to be.
And then we'll go ahead and snap a line. I'm gonna use blue because it'll contrast with the red we already got. Chop line doesn't break. All that, right? You got blue? Hold on. Give me a little more. Starter line. We don't need to mark the next face course. It's just gonna be held even with your hand to the starter. And then we'll come up after, so we can still put the mark in. We just won't snap the line. There's really no need to do it. And so then to do our layout, you just snap your exposure. And that becomes the headline from the headline on the starter. So, let's see. We know that the bottom of that slate is there. That's gonna put the head. It's not the exposure line on the first course. Hold 9 on the mark and mark 14 because that's how long our slates are. That's gonna be the next head. Then from that mark, it's every 5.5. So I'll hold 5 and mark 10.5. And then that's the first line that gets chalked. You can chalk that just to eyeball it, but there's no reason to hold it even with the starters. So let's chalk that one. Yep. And then basically at that point we've got to stop because now we need to put in some things there for the front of the apron. So we'll go ahead and run these starter and the first face course and the second face course, and then we'll stop for a minute. And that'll also help us run the eaves. We'll need some ribs. And basically, you guys are going to do this now, and I'm gonna kind of watch that.
These are the fence, right?
That's correct. Now, you don't want to cut that until you figure out what your width is going
What
to
the
be.
width is, okay. So I start cutting the bushes, I can cut this side out, right?
That's correct. You can cut all of those down to 9.
I could jackass without any tools here.
You know what, I apologize for that because I should have made sure that when you guys signed up that Dawn told you guys what to bring, so that's on me. I apologize for that. So yeah, you're just gonna be kind of working off the table for now. If you need nails, there's some here. I got some in my pouch. We can try and reuse some of those old ones. There's a box in the back that's got a bunch of nails in it. So I just want to review quickly. So I'm gonna hold over, and you can see this hole is gonna miss that wood again, like we were talking about. Not that. One more square. I'm gonna hold over 3/4, and that's gonna make my nail hole here miss. So I'm gonna come down and come in a little bit more, punch another one, that should hit. I punched that on the wrong side. That'll make it work. I can still move that, but when I run my hand over, if there's a countersink there, I don't really feel the nail head protruding out so much. So I want to bring that back up to the line.
Sometimes that's right. I think with repairs, sometimes you got punched through, right?
Not really. There's very few times that you actually.
I'm just trying to take it back out, I suppose, just poke through like an all or something.
Now this one you can see, if you run your hand over it, it's still not down all the way. I can still move it if I need to.
Both sides,
But
just
it's
one
not
side.
sticking way up. This one's not bad either.
Just the
So
top,
there's your
the
starter.
side.
Okay. Cut it. And your first face course, again, it's gonna come in
Yes.
right there. You can see we're on our mark, but I'm just paying attention to how these come together. I like to just kind of hold them. And you can see, because we went 3/4, this nail hole now works.
Nice.
Except it looks like we're gonna fit
the edge of the board.
Yeah, that's really good.
Almost like a curve there.
Yeah, if you're hitting the gap in between the sheathing, then you would just raise it up about a half an inch and punch it. That's gonna hold just fine. You're cutting? I'm seeing you.
That's my first time doing
Yeah,
it, so
that's, and it takes a little bit. You're cutting, when you're doing it, you're kind of going like this. It's more of an action like that because it's a turning action between.
So you have to block this thing as you're going down?
No, you move it up so that
Okay.
you're cutting directly on top of the shank, and so it wants to look more like this.
Okay,
It doesn't take a big swing.
gotcha.
So the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Okay.
So you're not using that corner at all? The corner of the hammer?
Not really,
Okay,
not really.
it's just that.
It's the shank itself, and again, it's less of a motion like this, and more of a motion like this.
Okay.
It's a shear. So now this is snapped off, but this is a starter.
Yeah.
And we'll probably still be able to use that. The next thing we're gonna have to do is figure out which one wants to be the top or the bottom,
Okay.
and also where this is breaking with the other face slate. I can tell you right now, we're gonna have to cut it down, right? And the suckers on So this doesn't work because we need 3 inches minimum. And really, I want to break it. And this
I say we run them in
close to
a,
that.
in a flying
So
V.
what we really want to do
I like
is
the
flip
V.
that around
Where was, see the
and
thing is, how do we
cut 4 inches off of this so it breaks in here.
Okay.
And then before you cut it, you'll punch 2 holes, one there, one there.
Okay.
Well, see, I think we're gonna have to do another one because this would show in the key.
Okay.
So we want to cut another set. But this is what this is all about. It's practice cutting, practice getting the hang of it, and it's a learning process, so no worries. We might be able to use this somewhere. In fact, we will be able to use it because we can take and rip this down and use it on the other side. So why don't you try that on that Pearson cutter? Go ahead and lay that out and rip it in half.
With the starter, you always just have like
Well, no, what you want to do, if we ordered Corey,
So when he says rip it
and
in
they
half,
knew
it's like
we were getting
certain
8-inch slate, they'd send us 16
a 6-inch
stars.
width, or is that?
We're making do with what we got, so we're gonna have to cut down every one, but that's okay because we're practicing cutting.
We said cut that in half, you mean exactly 6 inches from this edge? 4.
And I would make that exactly 4.
Okay, so you want the piece that's 4 inches?
That's right, exactly.
Gotcha.
And you could even make that 4.5 if you wanted to. Go ahead and make 4.5. That'll help us make up some of that fat. This is where we really need to get the framing square.
Yeah, you can rock it out.
Or you can do what he's gonna do, which is your spot. Does anybody have any questions about how that works? We had a half piece cut down. Where did that half piece rip go?
Here's,
That was a little floating for it. Let me see that. No, it's not 14. When he gets done with that.
So these we're gonna rip them or cut them down to 9,
Yep.
and then each one we'll just do it.
They're gonna have 88s. Yeah. Because right now, we're breaking in the middle,
Yeah, right,
and so each one,
right.
now, like I said, if we order starts from the quarry, they give us 16s, because they know we got 8
Yeah,
wide.
right.
But they didn't do that, so we're gonna just cut down all of it.
small amount of money.
And then do I just trim that up right here?
Yeah, I would just dress that up on the steak a little bit. That's not too bad. Just kind of rough it in like that.
Okay.
Now, once we have that piece in, when you can see that when we put this on here, the third course comes down and overlaps that starter by 3 inches. That's your headlap. And what that does is that rain's got it, so when you put the next full slate in, that's gonna come down to here. That rain's gonna climb all the way up there to get over the top of that starter. It's not gonna work.
And then I punch another hole like right there.
Yeah, you could do one there. You could try one up here.
Okay.
I'm gonna actually turn that. I would really probably use that over here because then you don't have to trim that and you get a nice uniform edge. So we can just hang on to that one for over here. I would actually put it right there. Does that make sense? Everybody understanding what's going on there? Once you kind of get moving, it makes sense. It's just a little bit of mess figuring out where the starter's got to be at. Starter and that's how I do it. I lay out the first face course and then I decide where I need my starters to go. And
Are
then
we doing 5-inch headlamp on a full house now that the codes are all, you find yourself doing it most of the time now?
almost every new one we do now.
Just be done with that, yeah.
So, if that were the case, then I would reduce my exposure or order longer slates.
Gotcha.
And then, we have no run here essentially, but in 8 courses, you can work that back out to where nobody would be able to see it.
Yeah.
And we've done it both ways. It's about 50-50. One time, about 5 out of 10, I order longer slates. It's a bit more work for me as I order it. And then the other one, we'll just increase that by a bit.
It's so much better, I mean, the other one you're relying on that paper,
Exactly.
not even getting the paper.
And when we go to the IRE every year, the International Roofing Expo, this year it was in New Orleans, there's 1,400 booths at minimum. There's one booth that's actually installing a roof, and we bring this to the show.
Yeah.
And you saw what we're
Yeah.
doing. We're making a lot of noise and people stop.
Oh, yeah, you guys are the one where people stop and watch. They're trying to sunset.
And that's one of the reasons why we don't felt this at the show or here. One more thing to bring too, you don't need it. Because the only reason for felt paper is to protect what's inside the house while you put the roof on.
You guys going to Nashville this year?
Yeah, we will be.
That's fun, huh?
We get a lot of interest every year at that show. We did the AFC this year. It was not good. No, the way they had it set up, they had a tour of all these buildings, and they did it during the show hours, and so there was nobody on the floor for hours and hours. It was plenty expensive that we just were like,
Not
this is
worth
not worth it.
You guys got a dock hold? What's that one German? Docks?
Doc and Juan, I think. They keep changing the name on it.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, is that cool?
For the trade shows and stuff. Now those starters.
Yeah, so I just started cutting these for starters. To save the
Makes sense. Good idea. Now these are punched on the wrong side.
right.
Now, I did the same thing. You saw me do it. So, but yeah, we're gonna redo those because we want to make sure that they're punched correctly. But good idea to take these because these are already 8.
Use the bomb side.
Yep.
These would be useful if they were 16.
Correct. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and put them back. I didn't order these Slate, or else that would have got some 60.
Yeah, you want to cut some there? I want to try out this steak.
Yeah, ready? Interesting to see how that works.
You notice this steak is a right-handed cutting steak. So there's a slight bevel
Okay.
upwards on that. So if you're left-handed, it may or may not work as well for you. I don't know, I've never tried it left-handed. It should.
If you flip it the other way, is it left-handed?
It would work, but then your points go in the wrong direction. They do sell left and right of these, just so you know, just like they sell left and right things.
All right, man. First time with steak is.
Get it? Now, I can give you a piece of advice. When you're cutting off that much, whack off half of it first real
Okay.
quick.
Just with the.
No, just put it right on the steak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, take that much like that.
Will it be more likely to be too much?
More like a break.
You gotta cut it twice for that.
I'm trying to think you're taking off a little too much.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
again, your
yeah.
motion is down, and it wants to be, your motion is coming back, you want to be up and down. So what I'll do in this case is just real quick, take that off, and I'll continue the rip and cut. And now you can come back and make your final cut. Sometimes you do need to take some of that extra material off, or you can even do this if you want to. Or you can use your point, like you were doing. But yeah, it's anything over 2 inches, you want to generally make it 2 cuts.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, just looking at it, you're a little off square on top, but that doesn't really matter. So just kind of keep that kind of tight, and then you're gonna have the same problem with the starters as you have with the face slates. So you make the space these out. What we're gonna do is we'll take one of those nines off and make up the space with it. So I like to kind of keep the starters tight.
Okay.
Perfect. Still move it while we're playing the slate. You could even make these, I would take that nail hole down just a fuzz, maybe a little bit towards the edge.
You're saying this stuff should have been done?
Yeah, I would put that hole right there. Even
Sure.
so then once you
Alright,
get
so
these,
that should have been 2 cuts instead of 1. And is that too much cut off in there to use?
oh yeah, it is quite a bit. For those cuts, I would use that cutter because when you're taking off 4 inches like that, that's enough that you can use the Pearson style cutter. Sure. Again, remember, space it, right? Just space it out a little bit. Now you're gonna hit it. Probably gonna hit it, yeah. So I would probably hit the holes about there. You gotta keep your behind it, because that just.
So we're saying 9 inches, mind if
Again, when I'm doing it,
I'll try and make it square on the table if you need
So
it.
we're cutting 9 inches, alright?
That's it, right?
Now you got some meat on that. See how that slate slid down a little bit?
Yeah.
It's not a problem, but you want it, when I nail these, I want to keep my hand here.
Ah, so it doesn't slide down at all.
Yeah, and then what I'll do is I get it where I want it, hold it with my hand, grab a nail, check it, put one in, and kind of put my hand in when I do the
Gotcha,
second
it's
one.
only so it's like.
Not a problem, but if you're working on a roof like that, now you can cut yourself on that edge.
Oh,
So
right, yeah.
I try and keep that dialed in. Now we can get a half rip, put it in for the next one, and then we're going across. But again, we gotta remember, with the starters and with the face slates, we're gonna need space. So you almost wanna run all your starters first, now you know where they're gonna be at. And then you can put your face slates up on top and space them out. There you go.
It'd be okay for down here and here.
Right there. There, and then what I'll do is, I'm just remembering that I wanted to have
It's almost a
so
square.
I'm gonna hash there, and then punch it here.
over.
Here. You can use X's. I started using hash marks and just keeping my nails close to the edge,
Okay.
and then you got one less mark.
I guess you gotta hit it pretty hard.
Yeah, you do, but I think you got it. You good, Drew? Yeah, so just take your pointy hammer and work it a little bit, and then it'll pop through.
Here's some nails.
Oh, thanks. So that's fishing, go a little deeper.
A little bit more, just a fuzz. Still moving.
Yep.
And that little gap is gonna get covered up by the next course. Just keep an eye on your bottom. You want your bottom to be lined up roughly. That's what
Do you want a gap on the starter?
We're not doing it.
Okay.
That little bit isn't gonna bother anything. And until we get those numbers, we can put one down for the extra at the end. Just easier that way than trying to space all these out. Now, I want to review one other thing that we were talking about inside, and we had to raise this a little bit, the nail hole location for this, the gap in the sheet. But I don't want it up here for two reasons. One, you're probably going to break the slate. And then if you were to try and go back in later on with a ripper and get it underneath there, you can see that I'm hitting the deck right here. And I can just barely hook that one. I can't even get on that. But I can real easy on this one. So you want your nails to come in to the heads of the underlying slate if you can. Now here we're running into our decking issue, so we had to raise a little bit. That's okay. But on the main field of the roof, your rule of thumb is you want the nails to come in just over the top of, and you'll notice that that's how they punched it here. So that our next course is going to be right about there, and I can still get a ripper underneath of that. Get that nail out of there too. We'll cover repair after we get the slate up, and then I'll yank one out and show how to replace one.
Important part is to last so long. You're going to be repairing it eventually, you know.
And you know, even on your new roof, where you've got one of those jacks sitting, you know, big guys like my brother at 350 pounds have been jumping up and down on it, will often break the slate that underlie it. So once you pull the jack out, you're going to have to remove the broken slate and fix it. So even on your brand new roof,
You're reworking them out, yeah.
so it's very important to, if you can, have those nails just underneath, just over top of the other.
So with the decking stuff, we're using shorter slates than you would normally use, right? Like they don't have, like you would normally do,
It depends on your roof. I mean, like I said, we've done slates as little as 10 inches long. It's basically the best I've ever seen.
Is that, so like what size deck board do you get? Like,
Yeah, we'll think about that, so that if I'm using, you know, slates that, these are for,
That's really impressive, yeah.
wait,
How long do you just practice
Yeah.
on? You just practice
I should
making
do this.
I don't like to practice unless I'm getting
No,
paid.
wait,